All right, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from the Sierra Nevada Brewing Company, and they're out of both Chico, California, and Mills River, North Carolina, and this is their Celebration, the 2023 release. So they're calling this one a Fresh Hop IPA that comes in at 6.8% alcohol by volume, 65 IBUs at the time of review. This can is just over 5 weeks old, so it's that time of year again. We got Celebration from Sierra Nevada. This is their fall seasonal. They release every single year. And full disclosure, I've had this beer numerous times before, too many to count. And I have reviewed this beer. I reviewed the 2018 release back in 2018, and I compared it to an aged 2017 bottle. I had two bottles, fresh, not so fresh. And the reason why I compared them is because for many years, people would age this beer. It should just be called Celebration Ale, Celebration Ale, I should say. And a lot of folks thought it was a winter warmer. In fact, I want to say this article dates back to like 2010, 2011, but the former director of communications at Sierra Nevada, Bill Manley, he would get messages and emails with people telling him, and I'm paraphrasing here, but they would send him a message and be like, I love what you did with the spices this year. You can really taste the nutmeg and cinnamon, and he'd have to write back to him and be like, there's no nutmeg and cinnamon. This is a fresh hop IPA. And they're like, what? So a lot of people do like verticals and stuff of this beer. And I did that side by side. And I would just say, for my own personal preference, definitely drink this fresh. But yeah, anyway, they're using Cascade, Centennial, and Chinook. I'm pretty sure the recipe has been the same for many years. And yeah, we're going to give it a go. I figured it's been 5 years since I reviewed it. Why not grab it? I don't do a lot of re-reviews, but this is one of those beers where it's like, I just want to drink it and review it and see how I enjoy it 5 years later. So anyway, let's give it a pour here. And this is, like an old school American IPA / West Coast IPA. Cascade, Centennial, and Chinook hops for sure. That screams old school. And that's basically what this beer is. But nowadays, at least for me, and I know this is a case for a lot of folks out there nowadays, you kind of crave something like this because you don't see breweries releasing a lot of this. That's kind of why like the West Coast IPA has been coming back, the new school West Coast IPA, but also old school. A lot of people clamoring for those old school IPAs. So yeah, that has more haze than I remember. And camera's going to look much darker than it does in person. In person has this really like burnt orange, almost like a very deep like copper color. Yeah, has about a finger and a half, almost 2 fingers of this, I would say, lightly tan colored head. Some big bubbles mixed in with smaller bubbles. It has kind of like a soap sudsy look to it. But again, I mean, if I hold my hand through it, I definitely can see it. There is a little bit of chill haze, but if I put my hand on the other side of the glass, I do see somewhat of a reflection to some degree. But for the most part, yeah, it's a little bit more hazy than I remember, but I'm an idiot, so maybe it's the same, and it's always been the same, and I just have never really looked at it that closely. Anyway, let's get those. Yep, that's Celebration. So to me, it always has this breadiness, little biscuity note, even slight like caramel kind of malt character, and then it just has a lot of like pine. There's a lot of pine for me. There's a ton of citrus. There's orange and like a white grapefruit. Has a nice sweetness, so it's making the orange and the grapefruit a little bit more candied. There's a little bit of like a dank floral thing going on, grassiness. Maybe a touch of a stone fruit, like a underripened peach, I'd say. But yeah, this is just old school to my nostril, to my single nostril, not the other one, just the left or the right one. I don't know. Yeah. It smells like Celebration. It's the easiest way to explain. If you've never had this beer, you're probably like, well, this is a terrible review, and welcome to the Beer Patrol. Cheers, everyone. Just really good. It's the best way to explain this beer. Every time they release it, it's just really good. And I'm not someone who usually says like generic, I don't use generic descriptors a lot for the hops. Like I try to break it down, but this just has a good hoppiness to it. It just really does. Easiest way to explain it. And I love that lingering, like moderate to touch over moderate bitterness on the back of the palate. It just kind of sits there, and I know after each sip it's going to build a little bit. And it's just nice. It just sits there and lingers on the finish. Mine is 6.8, medium, maybe a slight touch over. The mouthfeel, this is old school mouthfeel. It's crisp. It's really crisp on the palate. It's like moderate carbonation, but it's so easy to go down, super smooth. Taste. Nose carried over about 99.3% of the way. Right up front, a mixture of breadiness, biscuity, like a biscuity character, a little bit of caramel, passes through, the citrus hits, and it's the whole citrus fruit of an orange and a grapefruit. So you get the juiciness, just a slight juiciness, but then you get that zesty, kind of pithy feel to it. As it passes through, get a touch of that under-ripened peach. And then the second half of the palate is all of that hop character that is not a fruity character. It's very pine forward. It has like almost a sap kind of taste to it, like a pine sap, a resinous pine character. It's slightly dank, it's floral, it's grassy, it's fresh tasting. There's a nice earthiness. This is semi-dry, but that bitterness is starting to build. Now it's mild, or it's moderate to like full-on bitter. It's kind of right in that wheelhouse where you get all that sweet malty goodness up front, a little bit of that fruity character, but on the second half of the palate, it wallops you with those old school hop characteristics and that nice firm bitterness. It's just a well-made, well-executed Fresh Hop IPA, kind of in the same realm of Lagunitas Fresh Hop Ale. And it's a 6.8, that's 7.2. I don't think this is actually wet hops. I think the Lagunitas one is. Could be wrong. Someone correct me. I don't know everything. I don't know much, actually. So I always love information, especially when I'm incorrect, because I like to be corrected. So next time I talk about it, I'm not incorrect. But yeah, this is just always good. Is it my favorite beer from Sierra Nevada? No. Is it my favorite fresh hop beer? Probably not, although it's probably up there. I'll never say this is my favorite beer, an amazing beer from my palate personally, but I will say, as far as like a fresh hop IPA in the fall released every year, this is it's up there. It's like top 3. Stylistically speaking, for a fresh hop old school IPA, this is like almost a 5 out of 5. They do it extremely well. I can't remember off the top of my head if there's been like a prior release where people are like, oh, this year's release is off, or it's not as good as it used to be, or what. I've never really heard anyone shit on this beer, for lack of a better term. Like, they just always look forward to it, and Sierra Nevada always releases it every single fall. So Lagunitas do the same for Born Yesterday. But at the end of the day, it's just a well-made beer. I enjoy it. I usually give this a 4.25 out of 5. This year I'm going to go slightly higher just because, I don't know, I'm kind of in the mood. So Sierra Nevada's Celebration, their 2023 release, and they call it a Fresh Hop IPA. It's funny, they used to call it Celebration Ale. And then they changed to Fresh Hop IPA because, again, the aforementioned people would confuse it. I'm glad they did. This is going to get 4.3 out of 5 for me. That's where this beer lands. Like I said, if you're talking about a Fresh Hop IPA, especially from a domestic brewery that gets pretty much in almost every state, this beer right here is definitely a 5 out of 5 for that, stylistically, in my opinion. But it's just an awesome beer in general. So yeah, anyway, price point availability. Here's another awesome thing about it. In my neck of the woods, I think it's $10.99 6-pack. I know people will pay even a little bit lower than that, maybe like $9 or $10 a 6-pack. Maybe some others will pay $12, $13 6-pack. Anywhere between like $9 to $13 for a 6-pack of this all day, every day. I know there's people out there that buy cases of this and just drink it for a couple months straight, and I don't blame you. It's a really, really good beer. And availability of Sierra Nevada, like I said, they're pretty much everywhere now, and this is their main seasonal in the fall. It gets released typically in October. I think it's October through December, so we're right smack dab in the middle. You should be able to pick this up pretty much wherever, grocery stores. If you see Sierra Nevada, you should see this one. So if you've had this one before, post in the comment section. Let me know what you think about it. I know a lot of you have had this beer out there, so please post in the comment section. Let me know. What do you think about this year's release? How often do you buy this? Do you think there was a specific vintage of this that you enjoyed more than the rest? Off the top of my head, I just think they're all really good. I couldn't really tell you. One was significantly better than the other. Like with the Born Yesterday, like I remember the 2019 being great, the 2016 being great, but I don't remember specific batches of this beer like one year going, oh, it kind of blows me away, because they're always just really well made. So if anybody has any kind of opinion on this beer, let me know. Comment section. Oh yeah, 6.8%. Sure. Yeah, I would guess this is like 6.5%, 7% if I was doing a blind. It's kind of in that realm. And you really can't taste it, and it makes it dangerously drinkable, almost 7%. I could crush this. I think the bitterness would build up, but I could drink 2-3 cans of that, be feeling good. So I'm going to shut it down. I'm glad I reviewed this one. Probably won't review it for another 5 years, just because I really don't do a lot of re-reviews, especially of seasonals and whatnot, unless the recipe changes, and it hasn't. So anyway, another review down. Appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. To the next one. Cheers.